We are officially a third of the way through the 2025 NFL season, and I think we're starting to get a really good understanding on who some of these teams are. And today we are going to be doing a one-round mock draft with the current draft order, like we do every week on the channel. If you guys enjoy mock drafts and NFL draft content in general, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you never miss out on a video. It helps me out a ton and helps get this video out to more NFL draft fans like yourselves. We've had an awesome week here on the channel, so I do appreciate all of the new people that are watching and appreciate all of your guys' love and support. But guys, let's not waste another second. Let's get into this draft, starting with the number 1 overall pick, the New York Jets. After what we saw in London, I don't really see how it could be anything other than a quarterback. I know wide receiver is a position that this team needs. I know this team at linebacker could use some help, but it's a quarterback, and I don't really think there's any other position in the running right now. And right after what we saw this weekend, I think there's a clear number 1 quarterback, and that is Indiana's Fernando Mendoza. I don't think the grade against Oregon really does it justice for what he did. He was accurate with the football. I think he is just a really good decision maker. The ball gets out of his hands quickly. He knows where his open men are going to be. He gets the ball out, makes NFL level throws, has NFL level arm talent. This is a guy that I also think can elevate your game because he's got some athleticism. I think this is a Jared Goff type of a quarterback, and you guys are going to laugh at that, but Jared Goff is a top 10 quarterback in the league. I think Mendoza has that type of upside with his accuracy, decision-making, and overall feel for the quarterback position. I'm a huge fan of him. I thought he was incredible against Oregon, made plays when they needed him to make plays. He is the number 1 pick in this draft for me, and I have him going to hopefully be the savior of New York football. At number 2, we got the Cleveland Browns, and I've gone back and forth with this pick. Some people really are like, yes, the Browns need to take a quarterback. Other people are like, no, let's wait and see what we have with Gabriel and Sanders. I think there's a reason Sanders hasn't played at this point. And what we saw from Gabriel, I just don't know if that's a guy that I feel confident long-term being my quarterback. And I do think they will look in the quarterback market. Dante Moore didn't have the most incredible game against Indiana. I thought he was a little bit frazzled under pressure, which was something we talked about in the prospect spotlight we did on him last weekend, is when pressure gets in his face, I do think he has the tendency to panic a little bit. And it showed its face in this Indiana game big time. Ended up throwing it a couple of picks in this game. It was definitely his worst game of the season, but I still think with his traits and potential that this is a first-round caliber quarterback that will likely have his name called. I still think Sellers didn't have a great game against LSU. I still love him, but this number, 3.36 second time to throw. Right now, I think I'm going to take Ty Simpson. I am changing up my notes a little bit. This is a guy that, no, he isn't going to give you this crazy potential athletically like a Sellers or even a Dante Moore. But from the pocket, I think he might be the best decision maker in this draft class. He doesn't miss throws, an 80% adjusted completion. He's been so accurate with the football to all 3 levels of the field. Pinpoint accuracy, that 4th and 8 throw, the balls to make that throw and put it on the money against Missouri this weekend. Again, I don't think he's a superstar athlete, but he gets the ball out quickly. I want to see his time to throw come down 3.08 seconds. I think he's got a bit of a slower release, but a guy that continues to impress me week in and week out with his performance, the ability to make the right decisions under pressure. I think he's been overall really solid. I'm going to take him to Cleveland at number 2. I think Ty Simpson is a guy that has number 1 franchise quarterback type of upside. At number 3, it's the Baltimore Ravens. I think they sprint the card in. You take the best player in the draft class. To me, it's Ruben Bain Jr. You've got to get a guy that elevates this defensive line. I think their defensive line has been a disaster this year, not just in terms of they can't create pressure. They haven't been good at defending the run. Now, a lot of that is Madubuike being out, but I think Ruben Bain gives you the best of both worlds. At 275 pounds, he can kick inside if you really want him to. I know that his sack numbers aren't going to be elite, but 29 pressures on the season. This is a unstoppable force on the defensive line that has been the best player in college football to start this year. And I think Baltimore gets, I don't want to say a steal because you're taking him at number 3 overall, but you're getting the best player in this draft at number 3. So I think it's incredible value there. At number 4, we got the Miami Dolphins, who have played well the last couple of weeks, all things considered. They did lose to the Panthers. They did lose to the Chargers, but they are a team that looks a little bit more competent than they did a couple of weeks ago. I know a lot of people are going to take quarterback here with Dante Moore being on the board. I don't necessarily hate that decision, but I still think trenches are a big question mark. And when you look at this Dolphins team, I don't really love the guard situation. So I'm going to take a guard here or take an offensive lineman that I think can kick inside to guard. That is Francis Mauigoa, who I think is comfortably sitting at one of the top tackles in this draft class. He's either tackle 1 or tackle 2, really, however you want to look at it. I just haven't been in love with their offensive line. They drafted Jonas Savaiinaia, who I liked. He has been a complete disaster for them on the inside. I think he can move people off the ball in the run game. I think he's got great footwork and pass protection technique. And I think he can play right tackle for you if Austin Jackson is not your long-term answer there. Or he can kick inside to guard. I think he can be a very good player there. So I'm going to take another Miami player here in the top 5. Take Francis Mauigoa. I think he can be a really nice option for this Dolphins offensive line. At number 5, we got the New Orleans Saints. Now, we've gone quarterback a lot for the Saints, but I don't think a lot of people are realizing how well Spencer Rattler is playing right now. And because of that, I don't think I'm going to take a quarterback here. I think this is a team that Brian Brzee was always drafted to be more of that 3-tech, a pass-rushing type of defensive tackle. I think they've got to get better at stopping the run. I think that's been one of the biggest question marks on this team. And with Demario Davis going to be out probably after this year, I think you can upgrade there. I'm going to take Peter Woods out of Clemson. He's getting better as a pass rusher. He had a nice game against UNC, Boston College. He played well. So the pass rush numbers have improved the last couple of weeks, but he's just one of the best pure run defenders in this draft class. I think he's going to be a stud at the next level. And I think the Saints are a team that they want to build through the trenches. We saw it last year with the Kelvin Banks pick. I think they do the similar pick here. Take Peter Woods, who is one of the top guys in this class. He'll be my pick at number 5. At number 6, for the Tennessee Titans, they finally fired Brian Callahan. I do think I think offensive line has been a big disaster for this team. I just don't know if I want to go with a tackle here at number 6. You could go secondary, but I am going to take a receiver, get Cam Ward, his true number 1. You've got an okay play at times from Calvin Ridley. Alec Iomanor has showed flashes, but none of those guys are Jordan Tyson, who I think is the best receiver in this draft class. Route running, speed, hands, you name it. I think this is a guy that can do everything for you, can work inside and out. This is a true blue chip number 1 receiver that I don't think the Titans have had a guy like this since A.J. Brown. So I'm going to take Jordan Tyson at 6. I think he's exactly what Tennessee needs in that receiving room. And him and Cam Ward, I think, could build a very good chemistry with one another. At number 7, we got the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I did think about going Caden Proctor here and moving him inside to guard, which I do think is probably where Proctor is going to be at the next level. Because if you look at what this Bengals team has tried to do on the offensive line, Amarius Mims, Trent Brown, they have really tried to prioritize getting size on the line. And Caden Proctor at 6'6", 370 pounds, or whatever his official measurements are going to be, that's the type of guy that I think Cincinnati would typically go for. I don't think I'm going to do that here. I just don't think Caden Proctor is a top 10 player in this class. He'll get drafted very high, and we'll take him in the top 15. But I think this team has to continue to address the defense. The secondary has been a nightmare, and I think they have to go best player available here. That is Caleb Downs. They haven't had a true safety like this since Jesse Bates, but a guy that I think could be a very good tackler. He's an excellent run defender, very good in the back end in terms of secondary or in terms of coverage. I think he can do a little bit of everything for you on the back end. It's very rare that we're talking about a safety as a top 10 pick, but I think Caleb Downs is that type of dude, that type of player that can do everything for you on the D-line. So I'm going to take Caleb Downs at number 7 to Cincinnati. At number 8, we've got the Vegas Raiders. Very interesting spot here for Vegas, to be completely honest with you, because I really do think there are four guys that they could consider. I think Mansour Delane's in play here. I think you could go defensive interior, maybe if you feel really good about a guy like Amari Washington or Caleb Banks, because the interior of this line is awful. I do think Dante Moore is probably going to be the pick. Now, when I initially put together my notes, I went a different route. But if Dante Moore is on the board with his youth and his upside at the quarterback position, I think he's the pick, and he doesn't have to start right away for you next year. You can ease him into it. This is a really good quarterback that has been playing excellent football up to the point of this Indiana game. And let's not act like Indiana isn't a top 3 team in the country. I still feel very good about Dante Moore as a prospect. I thought the accuracy was still on point for him in the Indiana game. Just has to improve against pressure and his pre-snap recognition stuff, but if he's on the board here at 8, I think the Raiders have to consider it, and I'm going to take Dante Moore at 8 to the Raiders. At number 9, we got the New York Giants. I think this is a tackle spot. They are really starting to figure out what they want their identity to be, and that is a smash-mouth team that wants to run the football with Cam Scadaboo and Jackson Dart. What better player to get to run the football than Spencer Fano? One of the best run-blocking tackles I have ever studied. He is phenomenal on wide zone, inside zone, whatever type of run scheme, power, gap. I think he can do everything for you. Now, with his frame, he is going to have some limitations in his anchor against really good power rushers. But for this Giants team and the scheme that they are trying to run with Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo, I can't think of a better fit for them than Spencer Fano. So he will be my pick to the Giants at number 9. At number 10, we got the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I really thought long and hard about going quarterback here. When they were out with Kyler Murray being out this weekend, they had their best game of the year. Jacoby Brissett was able to move the ball up and down. Now, whether part of that is because the Colts secondary was as banged up as it was, or maybe there is something to it. Kyler's not been particularly good this year. I think they are going to give it one more year, though. I don't expect them to look quarterback here, and I don't think I'm going to reach for Lenora Sellers here in the top 10. So where else does this team look? Well, I do think this team is in the receiving market. And when Marvin Harrison Jr. went down, you really felt the lack of depth in this receiving room. Mekhi Lemon I think would be a great fit for this team. But Zay Jones is getting legitimate targets for this team in the year 2025. And he had a good game, don't get me wrong. I think receivers in play, but with the way the board has fallen, I have to take Arvell Reese. I just don't really know how it isn't Arvell Reese at this point. With what he has been able to do from all standpoints, as a blitzing linebacker, he is phenomenal. As a quarterback spy, he is phenomenal. If you're going to take a linebacker in the top 10, he better be good on early downs. Arvell Reese is the best early down linebacker in this class. You want to see a little bit more from him in coverage, don't get me wrong, but his athletic traits, his ability to defend the run and tackle, make plays at or around the line of scrimmage, he is an awesome player. I'm taking him at number 10 to Arizona. At number 11, we talked about Caden Proctor. I think this is a very interesting spot for him. The Texans, they need help on the interior of their line. I think Caden Proctor kicks inside the guard. You feel very good about that. I think that has to be the pick. I think this team would be very stupid to not address the offensive line. I've seen Jennings Dunker be a popular pick here. I just do not see the vision with Dunker in the first round. I do see it with Caden Proctor because of the size. I still think he's a good run blocker. And inside, I think a lot of his issues in pass protection could be resolved. So I'll take Caden Proctor at number 11. I think he's a really fun fit for this Texans team. At number 12, we got the Dallas Cowboys. I think this is a team that very well could look on the interior of their defensive line. They have not been able to stop the run for what seems like 3 years. And I think there's some names that you could be interested in. Caleb Banks, he's only played in 1 game. I don't know if he's the guy that you want to stop the run. Christian Miller, I think it's possible, could go in the first round. I just don't see him as a top 50 player. Amari Washington is the name I'm thinking about. I just think it's a bit rich at number 12. So I'm going to come back to interior of the defensive line, and I am going to take a secondary player and take Mansour Delane here. This is becoming a popular pick on this channel because I think Dallas's secondary is a big question mark. Trayvon Diggs likely won't be on the team after this year. I know they drafted Savone Revel. You've got Deron Bland. I just don't feel amazing about very many guys in that group. So I'll take Mansour Delane. I like what he's been able to do this year. Been one of the best corners in the country. I think he's a great fit for what Dallas wants to do defensively as well. So we'll take him at pick 12. At number 13, we've got the Carolina Panthers. I like what Carolina's been able to do these last couple of weeks, and I think they're a team that has the potential to continue to win football games because I was high on the Panthers coming into the year, and they're playing like a good, respectable football team. There are a couple of spots that I think this team could look to improve. They still, I think, could get better on the defensive line. Now, they run that 3-4 scheme. I think a 3-4 defensive end makes a ton of sense for this team and what they're looking for. I like the pass rush duo of Scorton and Oman Mielen for the future. I also do kind of like the idea of going to get another receiver. They traded away Adam Thielen, who I really liked for this team, and they'll be getting Jalen Coker back. Xavier Legette's been very up and down, to say the least. I think I'm going to go a different route than I've gone for Carolina yet this year. And I think this would be the third straight first-round receiver. But I think Mekhi Lemon and what he could bring to this offense is something that they haven't really tapped into. They're defending the run well. The other name that I'm really considering here is Keldrick Fultz. Perfectly. I think he can be a very high-floor run defender for you right out the gate. The pass rush win percentage has been pretty good. You want to see him get more sacks, but I do think he can be a force. I'm going to stick with Keldrick Fultz at least for this week because I think for Carolina, he's what they need on that defensive line, a guy that can create pressure and continue to be that smash mouth, tough team in the trenches. But I'll say this, I really do like the idea of going receiver again for Carolina. At number 14 for the Kansas City Chiefs, they are in a very interesting spot here. I'm going to go running back again. I know Chiefs fans were upset when I went running back last week, but this is a team that has not been able to consistently run the football, and that is a problem. You have to take some of the pressure off of Patrick Mahomes, who's played at an MVP level to start this year, but you have to get him help. Jeremiah Love is as good a running back in college football as we have seen outside of maybe Ashton Genty, but he is a first-round running back with his speed, his vision, explosiveness. I think it's all in there for him to be a game changer for you, and he makes a ton of sense here. I'm going to take him at pick 14. At number 15, I am going to take Mekhi Lemon here because when I look at Washington, when they don't have Terry McLaurin, this receiving room is not very good. Luke McCaffrey, he's all right. I don't think he is a Mekhi Lemon shouldn't stop you from that. I think this team has to continue to get help with Jaden, and I think Mekhi Lemon is a perfect complement. I know a lot of people are going to talk about Carnell Tate. I think Carnell Tate is awesome. He has really jumped up my draft board, but I think Mekhi Lemon is just a better, higher floor player because I think he gives you a little bit more explosiveness. So we're going to go wide receiver for Washington and take Mekhi Lemon in the top 15. At pick 16 for the Chicago Bears, I will take a pass rusher here. I think there's a couple of different names that they could look at. I think they could look at David Bailey. I think they likely could go with TJ Parker, though. If he's on the board, Parker's been having a good last few weeks for Clemson. And here's the thing. He fits, I think, a little bit more of what Dennis Allen wants to get with more size on the trenches. As much as I love David Bailey and think he is a top 3 edge prospect, and I have him better than Parker on my board, given what the Bears want, they want size. They want a little bit more against the run. I think that's what you're getting with TJ Parker. So I will take him here at pick 16. And I think that's great value for Chicago here at 16. At pick 17 for the LA Rams, I'm tempted to go quarterback again here. We typically go with the quarterback, but I just think it's a bit early for Sellers. I think 22 would make a lot more sense for him there. And I don't think we're going to take a quarterback here at pick 17. I think this team is going to go with a corner, and I think Jermod McCoy has to be the name. Big, physical, outside corner that I think this team kind of needs that. I think that Jermod McCoy is really hard to kind of figure out where he'll go in this draft class simply because we don't know what his health looks like. He hasn't played this season. There were rumors he was going to come back in the Arkansas game. He ultimately didn't. Maybe he'll be back for the game against Alabama, but the tape from last year is that good. I think it's worth taking in the first round, and I think the Rams, who need help on the boundary, I think they get a stud here at pick 17. At pick 18, I think the Vikings are pretty upset that Jamad McCoy is off the board, but I do think there are a couple of spots that this team could look. For one, I really like the idea of going Connor Lew. I've made this pick a few times, but with Ryan Kelly's future really up in the air, I think Connor Lew, as my top center, makes a ton of sense here. Gives you some more stability on the interior. I also think this team could go with another corner. I like Avion Terrell as a fit for this team. Colton Hood, I think, could be a good fit. I also think defensive interior. They've not been awesome against the run to start the year. They've got a couple of veterans there. Amari Washington, I think this is around the range where I would start to think about it. I think we probably take Amari Washington here. I know it's probably earlier than a lot of people would have him, but this guy at 6'3", 330 pounds is a freak athlete that's going to test off the charts at the combine, and he is going to be that penetrator. He can fill run lanes incredibly well. I was really impressed with his tape against Indiana. I was impressed with his tape against Penn State. We're taking him at pick 18. I think there's a really fun fit for him in Minnesota with Brian Flores, who's going to use his athleticism in such a fun way. At number 19, we've got the Buffalo Bills. I think they are a team. I know a lot of people want to go linebacker to them. I just don't think I think if they would go linebacker, if they're picking back in this half, but they're picking at 19. They have to go with the pass rusher, in my opinion, and that's David Bailey. I talked about this earlier. David Bailey is a top 3 edge rusher in the class for me. He is the most unstoppable pass rusher in the country right now that's had 24 pressures over the last 2 games. And it's not like he's playing bad opponents. He's playing Kansas and Houston, who have NFL guys on their line. David Bailey is a freak athlete. He's an awesome player as a pass rusher that I think has taken the necessary jump as a run defender. And for Buffalo, with Joey Bosa's contract coming up, you need help. I think David Bailey can bring that. So I'm taking him at number 19. At number 20, we got the Denver Broncos. Again, I'm actually going to go a different route here than I typically would. Kenyon Sadiq is a very popular pick for this team. I'm not as high on Sadiq as a lot of people seem to be, just because I don't think he's as NFL ready as a receiver as a lot of people think. The running game has been questionable for Denver. I still feel like they could go receiver here. And Carnell Tate, you pair Tate with Cortland Sutton, you got Mims and Franklin kind of rotating. I've not been very impressed with Pat Bryant. I think it could make some sense. I think they're probably going to go another offensive skill position more than likely. You could go Connor Lew here. You could go linebacker, if you will. Take a guy like Sonny Styles or CJ Allen. There's a lot of options for this Denver team. I take it back. We'll take Kenyon Sadiq because I think tight end is the biggest glaring weakness on this team. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if this team is looking receiver here. At pick 21, I think this is where I will go with a receiver. You took Ty Simpson at 2, and I know tackle is such a big need, but I just don't feel like any of these guys are worthy of going in the first round. I think they're going to have a high pick in the second round because they're not very good. So take multiple tackles in day 2, where I think the value is just better. And I'm going to go with Carnell Tate. I just think you have to go get a number 1 receiver. And Carnell Tate is playing at that level right now. He seems to have gotten faster. He is so good along the sidelines. His body control is phenomenal. This is the type of guy I want on my football team. And I think he fits very well with what the Browns want to do. I think he could be a number 1. You've got a nice quarterback now to throw him the ball, and I think you can improve the trenches later on in the draft. So we'll go Carnell Tate at pick 21. At pick 22, the LA Rams took Jamad McCoy earlier. We'll take Lenora Sellers here at 22. Look, Sellers has been very up and down, but he's going to go in the first because of his athletic ability. I just don't think that's really debatable at this point. Teams love traits. Lenora Sellers has traits for days. So Sellers is going to go high. I think he's a lock to go in the first round. And if the Rams are on the clock here at 22, why not take a swing? They're a Super Bowl contender. They have an extra first-round pick from the Falcons last year. I think you can go get a potential franchise quarterback of the future. I'll take Lenora Sellers at pick 22. At pick 23 for the Detroit Lions, I think we have to go corner. Ennis Rakestraw out for the year. Terrion Arnold been very inconsistent. This team just hasn't been able to stay healthy in the secondary. Avion Terrell, I love his fit with this defense, and I think he fits the culture that this team wants. Physical, nasty, chip on his shoulder type of player. When you watch Avion Terrell, that's the type of guy he is on tape. He fits so perfectly with Detroit's culture. I think he can be a nice blitzing threat as well. There's a lot to really like about what he can bring to the table. I'll take Avion Terrell at pick 23. And I actually think we're going to go corner again because Tariq Woolen looks like he is a very realistic trade candidate this year. And I think this team has had some issues in terms of secondary depth. I like Colton Hood a lot to them. I think his physicality, his athleticism, there are ways that Mike McDonald is going to be able to scheme him up and get him one-on-one opportunities where he is awesome on an island. I think this is a guy that could be a game changer for your defense. We'll take Colton Hood at pick 24. At pick 25, this is typically a receiver pick, but with the way Kayshon Boutte's been playing, with the way that you've been getting good play from Pop Douglas and Stephon Diggs, I'm going to wait on receiver. We're going to take Cassius Howell because I do think that is the number one biggest question mark I have with the Patriots. They've been awesome offensively. The trenches are playing well. He could maybe go running back because Travion Henderson has not looked very good. But Cassius Howell, we talked about it a little bit with David Bailey. Pure pass rushers in this class are very exciting. Cassius Howell has very short arms, but man, this guy can win in a variety of ways, and I think he'd be a difference maker for your pass rush. So he'll be my pick at number 25 to the Patriots. At pick 26 for the Chargers, I think they're looking at a couple of different names. I think they're looking at Mateo Uiagalelei out of Oregon. I think they're looking at Romello Height at Texas Tech. I think Dennis Sutton is probably not a name that they're considering, or Connor Lew. And Connor Lew is going to be my pick because it is so important that you keep Justin Herbert healthy. Interior pressure has been one of the biggest question marks and biggest issues that this team has dealt with for, it feels like forever at this point. I'm not going to overthink this. I'm going to take a guy that I think can help my offensive line. I think he's a very high floor prospect that can start right away at center. So we'll take Connor Lew at pick 26. At pick 27, we've got the San Francisco 49ers. I think they could go a couple of different ways here. I like safety as a potential option for this team. I would go Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. It's early for him, in my opinion. But I do think this team needs to go offensive line, get some help in the trenches. I still think Caleb Lomu is a first-round caliber tackle. He's allowed just 5 pressures this season. Good athlete. I think he can play on the left side of this line. I think you could move him to the right. But I think he brings you some nice upside for your defense, or for your offensive line, excuse me. And I think he's a nice player. So we're going to go with him at pick 27. At pick 28 for the Philadelphia Eagles, receivers in play here. It is like Chris Brazzell, Denzel Boston, like Elijah Surratt even, I think could get some consideration. This team has really struggled, and I think A.J. Brown is getting increasingly more frustrated, and I'm not so sure he'll be on this team next year. So I think that's in play, but ultimately I'm taking a secondary player. I think Kaylee Ringo's been pretty bad, to say the least. This is one of my toughest spots to pick in because I really, really like Chris Johnson from San Diego State. I think he is probably the best corner on the board here. I like Keith Abney. I feel like in the slot they feel pretty good. A.J. Harris, to me, so inconsistent as a player. I'm just not an A.J. Harris believer. And so I think I'm going to take Chris Johnson. I think I'm getting to the point where Chris Johnson is a better overall prospect than A.J. Harris. He's a better tackler. I can tell you that much for sure. He is so fundamentally sound in coverage that while he might not be this superstar athlete, he just elevates the floor of this team and this coverage because he doesn't bite. He's so disciplined. He's so smart as a zone defender. I really like Chris Johnson, and I think I'm getting to the point where he is a top 5 corner in this class to me, and I think I will take him ahead of A.J. Harris. At number 29, wow, that was hard to say, we got the Dallas Cowboys. I think they would love to go interior defensive line. I talked about it. I don't think Christian Miller is a first-round caliber player. As good of a run defender as he is, I don't think he's elite there. I'd rather take Caden McDonald if I'm being completely honest, but I'm not going to take Caden McDonald either. I'm going to swing for Caleb Banks. You have to take swings in this league. Caleb Banks, his athletic traits are worth betting on. He's 330 pounds. He's super explosive off the line of scrimmage. I think he is a borderline first-round caliber defensive lineman. Now, health is very much a question. He's only played 1 game this year, but when he's been on the field, I think he is a good football player. I'll take him at 29. At pick 30, we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Quarterback has to be the pick, right? I just don't see how it isn't. And with what we saw from John Mateer this week, where I thought he played absolutely horrible, Garrett Nussmeier, I don't think is a first-round quarterback with his size and just how all over the place he is with the football. Sam Levitt, he was hurt this week. He's played okay this season. Are we going to do it? I think we might end up taking Carson Beck for the first time this year. Beck has been awesome this year, getting the ball out quickly. I think he's making the right decisions with the football. He's been very good at making the right decisions. He's not turning the ball over. Still struggled under pressure, but overall I think has been very good. Sawyer Robertson is really the only other name that I would consider here. You guys know how I feel about Sawyer Robertson. He's been great, I think, this season. 19 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions, almost 2,100 yards. I think those are kind of your names here, are Beck, Mateer, and Robertson. I think those are my top 3 quarterbacks on the board. I'm going to go with the top guy for me. It's Sawyer Robertson. I know Steelers fans aren't going to love it. I think Sawyer Robertson is a first-round caliber quarterback, and so I'm going to take him at 30 and hope that he can develop into being a starter. At pick 31, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're going to go linebacker here for them. Actually, I take it back. I'm not going to go linebacker here. I'm going to take a pass rusher. I'm going to take Romello Height. I think getting more speed off the edge is imperative to this team's success. You've got David Walker last year. You've got Yaya Diaby. They love to go with these size outliers. That's what this team does. And man, Romello Height is so much fun as a pass rusher. I'm going to take him at pick 31. And then to round it out, my Indianapolis Colts at pick 32. I would go corner here. I talked about it though. A.J. Harris, I just don't think the value is very good on A.J. Harris here. I think he's a second-round guy. Keith Abney is the name that I've considered. He's just so small. I think he's probably a nickel at the next level. And you got Mike Hilton and Kenny Moore for that spot. I like the corner class, though. I think you can get depth. Davison Igbenogson, though, he's getting up there, back into the mix, in my opinion. But ultimately, I'm going to take a linebacker. I'm going to take C.J. Allen, who is my top linebacker in this draft class. Or my number 2 behind Arvell Reese. His athleticism, I think his ability to defend the run at such a high level is so impressive. I'll take C.J. Allen to round it out. And that's going to do it for me for this mock draft. I'd love to hear from you guys. Who do you guys think should go in the first round? Who am I too high on? Who am I too low on? Leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.